Ladies and gentlemen, imagine if Nancy Pelosi or Adam Kinzinger or Liz Cheney had to testify under oath and had to be asked or had to answer very serious questions, tough questions to answer, like, for example, do you know of any federal agents that were there that day? Do you know, do you have any direct evidence that Trump ordered anyone to commit a criminal act? Do you know of anyone in the United States government who was involved with the chaos and mayhem of that day? Could you imagine if the people investigating Trump were asked those types of questions? The House panel is composed of only people who despise Donald Trump. It's not a bipartisan panel. And today, or yesterday, Steve Bannon had a trial that went his way. Well, it was a mistrial. And the one juror who caused the mistrial is an amazing human being. Check out the segment prior to this one, about 3 hours ago at 8 a.m. on this channel, H.A. Goodman. He basically said, hey, this is a Colorado businessman being tried in the Southern District of New York. Why is this taking place? It's obviously political. And he did not believe that the evidence showed anyone was guilty of a criminal act. Perhaps the consensus of the 11 other people on that jury, possibly the majority of that number being liberal Democrats in New York who despise anyone linked to Trump's, his former advisor, the businessman from Colorado, anyone. They wanted perhaps retribution, just like Strzok, Comey, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, others. You can't always just investigate anyone associated with Trump and then coincidentally not investigate Hunter for his emails or a number of Democrats. AOC had campaign finance violations that weren't possible campaign finance violations that weren't investigated. The Clinton email probe was a farce, but imagine if Trump had servers with top secret intelligence on them. How did the classified data and top secret intelligence get transferred onto servers running outside of the United States government? Comey, Strzok, McCabe did not, never gave anyone information on that. Granted, I want a Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024 or Hillary DeSantis 2024. I want Hillary to be nominee of the Democratic Party for a number of reasons. But I don't think she'll have a tough time with mashed potato brains Joe, especially with the economy in free fall and Democrats getting obliterated in the House and the Senate in November. But anyway, Steve Bannon's lawyers are demanding that, here's a Bloomberg article, Steve Bannon's lawyers are seeking to question under oath Speaker Nancy Pelosi and every member of the House committee investigating that fateful day 2 years ago that I condemn. I also condemn the violence and not just of that day, but the chaos and mayhem that summer. Granted, the cause was a good cause, noble cause, but no cause is worth $1 to $2 billion or more in property damage and 19 lives lost. When you focus on chaos and mayhem on one day and you ignore an entire summer of curfews and clashes between demonstrators and police that went on like endlessly in some cities. You ignore all of that for an entire summer, and then you focus on one day. It's politically motivated. You're going if prosecutors in the Southern District of New York are going after a charity or a nonprofit meant to build Trump's wall, and accusing a Colorado businessman and the former Trump advisor of siphoning money, They're not worried about the Trump voters who perhaps lost money in this nonprofit. They despise those people, almost certainly. The average Democrat in New York has only contempt for anyone who would vote, I don't want to say anyone who would vote for Trump, but anyone who would give money to that type of fund. The quest to get anyone associated with Trump always is like the political motivation behind a Manhattan trial of a Colorado businessman accused of taking money from Trump voters for a nonprofit that wants to build Trump's wall. That, of course, is they're not worried about conservatives who perhaps lost money. They're worried about getting anyone near Trump. But the thing is, these men hit subscribe, by the way, that I say to this channel, the Stock Market Crash channel, the Bitcoin Crash channel below. If you want to become a member, please do. If you want to support my work long term, my Patreon is below. And ladies and gentlemen, like I always say, I'm trying to build the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash channel. Everything I've said since September of last year has taken place. Unfortunately, the economy and the stock market and the entire crypto world, Bitcoin, will continue not only to implode, but just descend. The bubble is slowly popping in both the crypto world and the traditional stock market. In the economy, 8 to 9% inflation. Oil prices now at around $120 per barrel. You have GDP growth that we're going into a recession. The Atlanta Fed GDP now estimate is 0.9%, 0.6%. So we're going for the second quarter. So we're going to have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. That's not good. We're heading into a very, very terrible situation. Layoffs are going to take place, unfortunately. We have a derivatives nightmare with hedge funds. We have people on margin buying crypto, buying stocks still. It's a bad thing. You have hedge funds, institutions that are on that have purchased too much on debt and margin. And initial margin requirements are going to change actually at the end of this year, and that's going to alter the way hedge funds do business. In this environment, it will very likely be an absolute catastrophe. We will probably have an 2008 moment with the Lehman Brothers and AIG type of catalyst. But anyway, hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That's below in the description and the pinned comment. Hit subscribe to the Bitcoin Crash channel. I have very important segments on both of those channels today. A lot going on with the market today and in the news. But here, if a judge, so we'll see, very likely, it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting if a judge says, hey, you know what? Liz Cheney and Kinzinger and Pelosi have to answer, and others have to answer questions under oath. Because you can't go ahead and grandstand. I mean, there has to be a reason why Lindsey Graham wasn't. Lindsey Graham has one foot with the Never-Trumpers and Democrats and one foot with Trump Republicans. They could have invited Lindsey Graham on the panel. They could have, they chose Kinzinger and Cheney. And what Bannon is saying is, and his lawyers are saying that, look, the composition of the committee, a resolution that created the committee states it shall have 13 members, but the panel has only 9, 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans, all of whom were selected by Pelosi. So you don't have a bipartisan. This is the antithesis of bipartisanship. I mean, there's so much. I can't stand, and I don't understand when there's so many intelligent people who view Trump to be this menace who lies all the time. And they can't differentiate between his personality, hyperbole, his kind of brash demeanor, and the manner in which media painted him and treated him and reacted to any of his tweets or words or mannerisms. Like, there are things that Trump did that pushed the envelope that, things he shouldn't have done in terms of what he said. But he was a good president. We had a fantastic economy, like a fact, a great economy, and a great foreign policy. A foreign policy that opposes the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld Lincoln Project people, the Liz Cheney type people, who want never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. That's the biggest issue in my mind, like the most important issue, to oppose those people. Much more important than climate change. Much more important than any Green New Deal. Much more important. And because that can immediately lead the world to Armageddon. Like immediately. And you can make a case we're heading there right now with these geopolitical nightmares under the watch of mashed potato brains. But Trump is not the caricature, the embodiment of evil that Democrats claim he is. A big part of how Democrats see Trump is the media creating him, making him out to be this monster where, I mean, they spend as much effort trying to make him out to be this terrible human being as they do trying to prop up Hunter and Joe and cover up all their sins. And it's interesting because if you ask the average Democratic voter, well, do you think Joe or Hunter are great people? Oh, yeah, they're good. It's fine. You think Trump's a good person? No, a horrible person. It's like, well, okay. You can look at Hunter's emails. You can look at the photos. You can look at his behavior. Compare it to Trump. It's no comparison. Trump's never done any of those things. Pelosi's husband just arrested now and had a tragedy involving the same substance that he was utilizing while he was behind the wheel. Okay, people lose their lives all the time with that. He was arrested. But that they would say, oh yeah, the Pelosi, much better person than, and her husband, much better people than Trump. It's like you're looking at, they don't judge Donald Trump in the same manner they judge themselves. And a big part of it is the way media takes his words, amplifies the things he shouldn't have said, and absolutely distorts things that he said to make it sound as if he said things that he never said. Like, we can go on forever. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Trump is a media creation. It might be because he wants to be this creation as well, but the people who despise Trump can't delineate or differentiate between the media's perception of Trump and who Trump really is. And that's a huge problem. They can totally do so with Joe and Hunter and Hillary and Bill. And there's a hall of shame of Democrats who have done really bad things and overtly criminal things. But media covers up, or I should say suppresses the emotions pertaining to any suspicion or condemnation. Okay. With Clinton's email probe, it was, well, we don't exactly know why she was using private email servers. Servers, not just private email. Private servers. We have no clue. Well, gee, maybe it was to hide communication from FOIA requests and from the United States government and its people. Gee, maybe. Like I said, I want a Hillary Trump 2024, but just maybe. With Trump, it's, oh my God, there's a Steele dossier purchased by Clinton, and oh my God, he has to be guilty of something. And I think that's, they're delusional. The wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats, when they look at Trump, it's like they're delusional. They see something that doesn't exist. And what they've created, the image they've created, is not who Trump is. It's definitely not what his policies have amounted to, which were actually much better than the policies we see today. In terms of the economy, there's no comparison. I mean, you can just draw a T-chart and put the economy Trump and the economy under mashed potato brains Joe. But anyway, I can go on forever. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back in about, 2-3 hours. Thank you, everybody.